We begin with the biggest release so far of files relating to the late financier and sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. More than 3 million pages have been made available, including thousands of videos and images with references to public figures, including Donald Trump. US authorities are hoping to draw a line under the affair, but victims of Epstein's crimes signal that there's much more to come. Political analyst Allan Lichtman is a distinguished professor of history at the American University. Do you think this is any closer to becoming dangerous in any way for Trump?
No, not really, because there's really not much that has come out on Trump that wasn't already known. We knew that he had a very close relationship with Elon Musk for a very long time. He even sent him a salacious birthday card, according to the Wall Street Journal, a sketch of a woman talking about the secrets that they shared. He talked about Epstein being a great guy who, like Trump, liked beautiful women and liked them very young. The piece of information that does seem to be new here is a series of unverified tips compiled by the FBI, actually apparently during the Trump administration in July, which have all kinds of very serious charges against Donald Trump, including accusations of rape. The problem is we have no idea whether these tips that they received are true or not. Todd Blanche said they're not true. The only truthful thing Todd Blanche said in all of his statements is that people will not be satisfied. Absolutely not. This whole mess has been a fiasco for the Trump administration. Remember, way back, Bondi, the Attorney General, said, I have the Epstein material on my desk and I'm ready to release it. And then, whoops, I'm not releasing anything. Then Trump and his cronies fought like tigers to try to not release this material. Finally, they capitulated when they had no choice. The Justice Department got 30 days to release all the material. They're 42 days late. They haven't released it all. They have 2.5 million items they haven't released. There were all kinds of unreasonable redactions in what they did release. And according to the survivors, opposite that, they released some of the names of the survivors. The survivors released a statement saying, quote, once again, survivors are having their names and identifying information exposed, while the men who abused us remain hidden and protected. That is outrageous.
Let me pick up on that point you're making on the Justice Department's handling of these documents. Democrats want lawmakers given unredacted versions of the files. Will that happen?
If enough political pressure is put on the administration, it will happen. I think they will fight tooth and nail not to give the unredacted version. As the survivors indicated, the redactions are totally unreasonable. You know, they don't fully protect the survivors, but they do protect those who abuse the survivors. Maybe Donald Trump, maybe other powerful persons. We don't know until we see.
Could there be a legal case in that? Could there be a legal case in that against the Justice Department?
Not a criminal case, but I certainly believe there could be a civil suit compelling the Justice Department to comply with the law, which they absolutely have not, despite all the information that Todd Blanche has given you. Remember, this administration has no credibility whatsoever when it comes to what it tells the American people. Remember how they blatantly lied to our face about the killing of Renee Good and the killing of Alex Preddy in Minneapolis.
And just briefly, you think this is far from over then?
Far from over. Not even close to being over.
Okay, Allan Lichtman from the American University. Thank you very much for being on DW News tonight.
My great pleasure.
And we are joined now by DW correspondent Misha Komadvosky in Washington, D.C. Misha, could this new material put more pressure on the Trump administration?
Well, yes, but primarily on the political front, not on the legal one. And the question now is whether this will be quite enough to quiet criticism from lawmakers, from some of the president's very own supporters, and from the survivors, most importantly survivors. And 66% of registered voters, they disapprove of how the president handles and has been handling the Epstein files, including 28 of those who voted for Donald Trump in 2024, according to a New York Times, freshly conducted in mid-January. And this new batch of files fuels ongoing scrutiny and criticism over transparency and past associations. They provide fresh material for opponents to challenge Trump, and they use it to do so in the media and in Congress. However, they don't currently provide legal actionable evidence against Trump. Multiple DOJ officials have publicly downplayed allegations involving Trump as unverified and unsupported, I have to say.
Now, what do these newly released documents tell us about how the Trump administration is handling the case?
Well, we have to understand here that the Department of Justice is complying with the law. It's not doing it willingly, and this law was passed by Congress and signed by President Trump to open its files. It has released millions and millions of pages, but continues to withhold or redact others for legal and privacy reasons, and those redactions are heavily criticized by the opponents of this administration. And the DOJ is defending its actions publicly while facing ongoing political, judicial, and legislative scrutiny here over the pace, over completeness, and over transparency. And these newly released files mention Donald Trump thousands of times, primarily in news clippings, and as we heard, emails, and in unverified tips. However, the Department of Justice has explicitly stated here that these references do not represent verified allegations or evidence of criminal conduct.
Now, I want to change the topic now. In nationwide protests in the U.S., protesters are calling for the withdrawal of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, from their state. It's a wave of demonstrations across the U.S. What potential does this new protest movement have, and how might it develop?
Well, Gerhard, as we see in these images, protests have spread across the United States, and they started after federal immigration agents were involved in fatal shootings of civilians in Minneapolis, and demonstrators have walked out of schools, they closed businesses, and rallied at state houses and city centers in dozens and dozens of states, demanding that ICE withdraw their operations from their communities and that the federal government changes its enforcement tactics. Activists organized a coordinated national shutdown, a general strike, calling for essentially no work, no school, no shopping, no dining, and it means that people want to show to broad public that they have opposition to immigration policies and ICE presence in their very own hometowns.
DW correspondent Misha Komadvosky there in Washington, D.C. Thank you very much, Misha.